Your home for Greater West Bloomfield news. Civic Center TV and 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake. 89.3 Lakes FM. It's the Megacast, an hour-long TV and radio streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV. Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
When the temperatures are chilly, being together warms the soul. Keep the winter fun going. Help protect yourself and those around you by keeping your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy, and if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our top story comes from David Jesse at the Detroit Free Press. Big announcement on Monday for college hopefuls here and all across our local area and throughout the state, as Wayne State University will offer free tuition to students whose family's income is lower than $70,000 per year. President Roy Wilson said that this is all part of the university's long-standing goal of improving the social mobility of local families and individuals, providing opportunities in education that may lead to opportunities in the workforce. Said Wilson, quote, "We can't just work around the edges. We have to do something bold. We're stepping up," end closed quote. It's been a growing effort for Wayne State. Last year, 46% of students had zero out-of-pocket expenses due to ongoing efforts from the university through their tuition pledge program. This new effort, known as the Wayne Guarantee, that being the free tuition to families whose annual income is $70,000 or under $70,000, known as the Wayne Guarantee, is estimated to push that number of students who are going to school at zero cost out of pocket from 46% to 50%, half of the student body. Pretty impressive. And this is in addition to the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, a new effort statewide that, quote, provides up to $5,500 per year for up to 5 years to students attending a Michigan public university. These efforts by Wayne State, along with the state's efforts, are, according to Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a huge accomplishment as her administration aims to up the number of Michiganders with either a skilled trade certificate or a college degree to 60% by the year 2030. And look, college is expensive. Training can be costly for some of these skilled certificates too. It's not easy doing all this. And so what this essentially is by Wayne State University, by the state of Michigan, is investing in the future of our workforce. And it's something that's been necessary for a number of years. And it's great to see these efforts beginning here in the state of Michigan over the last couple of years. And now at Wayne State University, really taking the driver's seat on making an example of what can be done at public universities in order to up student achievement by bringing more students in and relieving them of the financial strap that comes along with going to college and investing in your future. Because for so long, our students here in Michigan and around the U.S. have been told you got to go to college in order to get an education, get a degree, and be able to put yourself in a strong position in the workforce. And what's also happened over time is that has continued to be preached to students at public and private schools all across the country and all across our local area as well, is that the expenses of college have gone up, whether it is just the base tuition costs or living expenses that have gone up. Books have become more and more expensive. It used to be, decades ago, you could work a summer job, make enough money to pay your tuition, maybe even your books for the next semester, if not the next entire school year, and be good to go. And by the time you left the university, if you had any debt at all from your college education, it would be pretty minimal and something that you'd be able to cover quite easily with your first job out of school, your first full-time work. That's not the case today for a lot of these kids that are going into college, or a lot of kids that are in college. And yes, it is a fair point. They've made that choice to go to college, but it's also been something that has been set up by our society, by not necessarily our government, so to speak, although they have contributed to it, but by the workforce saying you got to go to college in order to be able to qualify for some of these better positions that you're looking for a career. And with those higher costs, it becomes tougher to pay for that education over time. And so people are either veering away from that and doing what also should have been touted as a very, very solid goal and a very solid career path going into the skilled trades, and the state's investing in that as well. Because we do know we need more people in the skilled trades right now, and those jobs are available. They are well-paying jobs. They have plenty of business. That's also a really good investment by the state, and that's what's been clear with them investing $5,500 per year over the course of 5 years for those students here in Michigan that are either going to a public university or pursuing a skilled trades certificate in a variety of those different trades. Wayne State University, in this case, helping students that are from families with incomes under $70,000 to be able to go to college free of cost on the tuition side, and then use these other resources through the state for living expenses, for books, for whatever they possibly can, and pursue those scholarships as well. That makes the college experience be something that they can attain, the college education, that degree, something that they can attain without the financial pressures that either keep people out of college altogether and maybe take down the overall skill, so to speak, that's in our workforce. And also, in this case, by investing in this, not only are you upping the number of people that are going into the workforce with those skills and with that education here in Michigan, you're opening up opportunities for them to take what they've learned, start their own businesses, and further drive the economy in the state of Michigan. So that is really great news, and part of the reason why you would see somebody like the governor going to Wayne State to be right by their side as they make that investment in their students and really set an example for some of these public universities in the state of Michigan who may be able to do something along the same lines in the future. That's hugely helpful for the average Michigan family. And just for reference, before we move on to the next article, let's just go through exactly how helpful that is. Families making an income of under $70,000 will be eligible for this free tuition through this new program known as the Wayne Guarantee. For reference, this is a direct quote from this article. In 2021, the median household income in the state of Michigan was $64,488. Students with family incomes of less than $70,000 and assets below $50,000 qualify for the Wayne State Guarantee. And so you think about helping the average person, helping the average family get their kids into college. There it is. Fact of the matter: the average salary here in the state of Michigan, the median household income, sorry, not the average, the median household income was $64,488 in 2021. I would imagine if we looked at updated numbers, that would not be very much different today. Also making headlines from Charles E. Ramirez at the Detroit News. Yesterday marked 1 month exactly to the date since the horrific mass shooting at Michigan State University that took the lives of 3 students and sent 5 others into critical condition at Sparrow Hospital in Lansing. Monday also marked the return to school for Spartan students following their spring break, and they were keen to make a strong statement upon their return. Students from the group known as Spartans Against Gun Violence hosted an event called MSU Walk Together for Monday. Although due to the inclement weather forecast for Monday and the snow that ultimately did come through, that event was rescheduled to Sunday. Students and faculty are invited to leave dining halls, dorms, classrooms, and other areas of the campus and walk together to Demonstration Field, the field that's right behind the Spartan statue, and will, quote, have the opportunity to preserve their stories for future Spartans, and closed quote. You can reference that just a couple weeks ago when we had the second big storm come through, not the ice storm, but the major snowstorm just a short while ago. That was around the time where the university had ultimately cleared the memorial that was at the Spartan statue for those students lost and those students injured and affected and traumatized by the shooting just 1 month ago. The group has stated that the event is intended to be apolitical and will be centered on coming together as a community and making a strong statement of solidarity against the violence perpetrated in their home. So, apolitical event, but a loud and pointed statement being made by students and faculty alike at Michigan State University of this event now scheduled for Sunday, as they will walk to Demonstration Field and come together. We've seen this in the past from the Spartan community in the immediate aftermath of the shooting on February 13th, that they were able to come together in droves and thousands across the campus along the river trail on Spartan Sunday. This is a different kind of coming together. It's not for solidarity and for inspiring some hope and providing a helpful supporting hand to those students that are returning to campus. In this case, it is continuing to make that statement. They want answers. They want action to prevent these sorts of incidences from happening again at Michigan State University or any other university, high school, middle school, elementary school, and so on, all places where these sorts of incidences happen regularly here in the United States, including here in Michigan, twice. In the last 15 months, these incidences have happened right here in the Great Lakes State. They deserve to have that action. They deserve to have those answers. And really the only way to make sure that the noise that you make in that immediate aftermath that we see from all these communities in Michigan and beyond when they've experienced a mass shooting and calling for action and calling for things to change, to make sure that doesn't go away, the best thing you can do is continue to make a strong effort to push that forward and not let it fade into the usual silence. And that's what these students are doing, continue to be showing great leadership in the wake of absolute tragedy happening in their communities. And it's a tough time to be showing that kind of leadership, but you see just what a community is made of when they're faced with their biggest challenges. And we continue to see that at Michigan State in this situation. So again, they will be running this. This is going to be happening on Sunday. According to this article, it was postponed due to the weather on Monday. Of course, it was scheduled for Monday afternoon. 2:13 p.m. was the time they were going to walk out, so about middle of the day in the middle of a class period at Michigan State, where students would be walking out of their classes, walking out of their dorm rooms, walking out of their dining halls, wherever they may have been on campus, and walking together to Demonstration Field. And it's a large field. You can fit a lot of people on that field for a demonstration like this, certainly around the Spartan statue as well. And that's right around the area of IM West, the Intramural Sports Building, and Spartan Stadium too. So there's bleed over for standing areas that would probably go to those parking lots in that case. But Demonstration Field is quite large. You can fit a lot of people on that field. It's a place where we get we'll see a lot of tailgating during football season, and so I would expect that with this crowd that you can expect for a demonstration like this, that Demonstration Field will be a great location for that. And it's at a place that's really become partially a memorial for those students and a gathering place to memorialize what happened on February 13th and to continue to remember those students lost and injured at Michigan State last month. Finally today, making headlines on our new local news page on civiccentertv.com from Bridge, Michigan's Paula Gardner. Doing what any good journalist does, Paula Gardner followed the money. Why does DTE want to raise your rates by 13.9%? They say it's because they need more money to do necessary updates and repairs to the local power system and to the power infrastructure. So it probably came as a bit of a surprise when she looked at their financial statements from 2022 and saw that the largest utility in Michigan slashed its operations budget and handed out millions to investors while pausing hiring and maintenance last year in order to get, that's right, you guessed it, hit their revenue targets. All for the almighty dollar, not for the almighty power that you pay for. DTE has kept the power going. DTE has kept the power going on one thing, paying dividends to their investors, extending their streak in 2022 to 100 years of paying out those dividends to investors. Wow, congratulations, what an accomplishment. This time around, those dividends were at about 95 cents per share. All of that being said, there's no indication that without these cuts that DTE's response time to the recent storms would have been increased or would have been more fruitful, or that the negative outcomes from the storms would have had a lesser effect on our local power system. But it does beg the question, with Michigan's utility rates being the 11th highest in the country, with stocks for DTE Energy as of last week Thursday, when the Gardner and Bridge, Michigan were doing this report, were at $109 per share, and earnings per share are continued to expect to be fruitful at 6 to 8% increase per year long term. What did these cuts really do for the customers like you? Some investors may have made millions. Customers instead made $35 and had to cut their losses, some of them twice. So I encourage you to read this article, get some more information on what DTE had done in 2022 to really help its investors and continue to have it's really quite staggeringly good numbers on the investment side. And look, they have an obligation to do that. They have an obligation to their investors. And so making sure their investors aren't losing a bunch of money in this company that's helping them to continue to run, helping them to continue to function and be able to provide these services to our local area, that has to be an important consideration for them. We can't take that away. We can't act like they shouldn't act like a business when they're running a business. That absolutely is something they should be doing. They do have an obligation to their investors, and that obligation is to make sure their investors aren't losing the money that they've put in, their hard-earned money that they're also putting in to this company. That being said, they also have an obligation to the public. They are the largest utility in the state of Michigan. They're one of two electrical utilities in our local area, them and Consumers Energy, and there's really not, and it's been an ongoing complaint for customers who have had issues with DTE in this storm, in this past winter storm, the ice storm before that, and severe weather in the summers in the past years that have had repeated outages, even as far as back as just last fall when we had some long-term outages here in Oakland County and surrounding areas. This has been an ongoing complaint. We have nowhere else to go. Who else are we going to go to for electrical power? There's only two utilities available in this local area, and in some cases, there's only one available in my local area. Is a complaint that many consumers have made time and time again. So, looking at this article, looking at this information, understanding that DTE took steps to make sure that their revenues were in check so that they could pay out those dividends to their investors for the 100th consecutive year and continue to prove to potential investors and to current investors that DTE continues to be somewhat a company that you can pretty safely invest in and turn over a profit for yourself and for them to turn over a profit on their end. It becomes curious. At what point are you making profits for the sake of making profits, and at what point are you maneuvering the money, maneuvering your budget in order to help your customers? And how much of that 13.9% increase in rates that you are seeking, how much of that is actually necessary in that hike? Does it have to be 13.9%? Could it be lower? Could you maneuver your budgeting around to help that out, to lower the costs on the customers while you're making millions of dollars for your investors? Customers are losing money in these power outages. That's what they're frustrated about. They're losing money, they're losing power, And for some of them, they work from home, especially after the last 3 years. Working from home has become a huge part of our workforce. And if you don't have power and you don't have backup power like a generator that you can run when the power from your utility is out, what are you going to do? Maybe they don't have reliable transportation and can't get to work. Maybe if they do go to work, work is also out of power and they don't have backup power. So now they're losing wages. These businesses are losing money. And they're hurting as well because of these power outages that continue to be prolonged. That being said, again, we've talked about it in the past, and I'll say it again. Those that are working on the front lines to make these repairs, they're doing amazing work. They are working around the clock. They are working in sometimes dangerous situations that we wouldn't want to be in, and they encourage us not to go in with down power lines, with damaged power lines, in order to restore your power as quickly as possible. But this is a behavior from DTE Energy and from other utilities that begs some questions, and are going to be begging questions from our leaders in Lansing, who are already scheduled to have a hearing with both DTE Energy's COO and as well as the two vice presidents from Consumers Energy to talk about the recent storms and that impact of those storms on customers, why the outages were so prolonged, and why that happened multiple times. This is probably something that could be in the back of the minds of those lawmakers as they're asking about the impact of these storms and the impact of the current electrical infrastructure on consumers, while the company here is reducing its costs on its operations budget, pausing its hiring of more staff in order to address potentially some of these issues, and as a result, increasing their revenue and increasing the dividends that they can provide to their investors at the end of each of these years. 100 straight years of doing that. They've been very consistent in that regard. And of course, that's going to be a point of frustration for customers, as some would say it's been unreliable. Maybe not in all areas of southeastern Michigan, maybe not in all areas of Oakland County, but for those that have lost power time and time again through all these storms, it has to be extremely frustrating, especially as we're getting toward the end of the winter season. And what happens right after the winter season? We go into severe weather season. And that's another point where power tends to go out with high winds, with a lot of rain, sometimes with hail, sometimes with even more severe weather like tornadoes that come through and can knock out the power systems. Now look, some of these cases, not much you can do as a utility when there's high winds, when ice is freezing over, when tree limbs are falling on branches and knocking them out, short of taking extreme and often very costly steps to put those lines underground. Sometimes that's not even possible in certain areas. And so the only thing to do is find what's broken, repair it, and try to mitigate those issues by cutting down tree limbs and whatnot throughout the year. And that's exactly what these DT crews are doing and continue to do. So, we on the other side, on the consumer side, also need to take a step back when we're frustrated that DTE is out and about cutting tree branches on your property or on other properties, or maybe they're out even in the roads cutting branches that are affecting that could affect power lines in the roadways, and that's clogging up traffic for a little while. Those are things that are necessary for us to maintain power and reduce some of these issues that we've had continuously in these sort of situations. But I highly encourage you, go to our local news page on civiccentertv.com and read this article, click through this article and read the supporting materials. Paula Gardner and the Bridge Michigan team did a really nice job with this. You'll see it. DTE Energy cut operations to meet profits months before power outages. Great article from Bridge Michigan, really interesting and a big thinker as well, as we know that this week, I believe Wednesday is when there's going to be hearings in Lansing on the committee level that will involve both DTE Energy and Consumers Energy executives to address some of these issues and to get some of the lawmakers' questions answered from these utilities, major utilities that have quite a lot of power, pun absolutely intended, in our local area. All these headlines are available on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page, along with news from all throughout the week. We'll update that page each and every day right before we do our show here at 10 a.m. live Monday through Friday. You can also find on our local news page Public health links from the CDC, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division right at the top of the page. They take you to the COVID-19 specific web pages at this time, but you can also explore throughout the CDC's website, the NBHHS's website, Oakland County Health Division's website for a lot of other information. That Oakland County Health page has a ton of information on different public health matters affecting our local area. If you're looking for a flu shot, they can help you with that. If you want to call their Nurse on Call hotline, has information about all of that. And of course, COVID-19 information as well, as the pandemic may not be as big of a concern as it had been for a lot of people in general in our community in the past several years, but still going through our community, still something that you can keep track of right here in Oakland County, and that is all through the Oakland County Health Division. So those links at the top of our local news page, very helpful, along with those articles that are below it. We have a great show ahead on today's edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll talk about helping homeless pregnant parents right here in our local area with Mary's Mantle. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
There are many different kinds of noses. Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. Good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations all across the Great Lakes state, including My Michigan TV, and find all of our full shows and each individual interview segment on demand as well. civiccentertv.com/megacast, the place to go for all of that information. Well, we know, even in Oakland County, there are a number of people that are affected by homelessness. What we often don't think about when we consider our homeless neighbors here in our local area is that many of them, like those that are in homes in our local area, do end up getting pregnant and having children. That also affects their kids on the other side. Now you're bringing another person into a family without a home. But there is an organization in our local area that is working hard to help pregnant parents and ultimately their kids after birth. And that is Mary's Mantle. Joining us now on the program is their executive director, Katie Montez, on today's show. Katie, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Tyler. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on to tell us about Mary's Mantle. Before we get into some of the specifics, just give us a little bit of the history and the background of your organization and some of the resources you provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mary's Mantle started in 2010. We are a residential program for homeless pregnant women throughout the Tri-County area. So we are located in Oakland County, but we definitely help moms and children all throughout the area.
And this is something that maybe doesn't get as much attention as it should, because we think about the homeless population, we simply think about people that aren't regularly living in a house or in an apartment or have a specific place that they're calling home. Maybe they're roaming around, they're going to shelters, they're living out of their cars. And typically when people think of a homeless person, they don't think of an expecting mother, but much like you and I and so many of us, people that are homeless are living their everyday regular lives too, and that includes parenting, that includes motherhood. So just how critical are these resources that you're providing, and what really are you providing to these expecting women and people that can get pregnant that are out on the streets?
Absolutely. I think that's a great point, Tyler. We often think of homeless people as, just being on the streets of Detroit, but homelessness can look a lot of different ways. So for a lot of the women that we see, homelessness just looks like a young woman who might be couch surfing, might be couch to couch, family to family, just not have a consistent, safe place to live, which is tough enough just if, you're on your own. But when you're pregnant or a new mom, that those challenges just become more compounded. So that's really why Mary's Mantle was founded. We are a small organization, but our goal is to provide safe housing for our women. Our home is in Southfield. We can provide housing and support for up to 4 moms at a time. So it's certainly not large, but our hope is that our moms stay at least 6 up to 12 months, even longer, if they want to, and have that safety and security that we can offer.
And that safety, that security, it's so critical because you're not just thinking about who is pregnant in this situation. You're also thinking about ultimately the baby that they're going to be having. And how this experience of being homeless may impact that child once they are born, and certainly even after they're born. And so in terms of the resources you're providing to these expecting parents, beyond, of course, what you just discussed, how much of a focus also goes on, really protecting that expected child in this experience too, because they are going to be also impacted by the homelessness?
Absolutely. So we have a full-time social worker that works on site with our ladies that provides all sorts of case management support. So whatever's going on in that young woman's life before they come to us, whether it's lack of education or lack of employment, transportation barriers, help connection with medical resources. A lot of the ladies that we help have not seen any OBGYN or received any prenatal care. So those are all things that Mary's Mantle is really going to start working with the mom right when she moves in. First, we want to make sure she feels safe and secure with us, but as soon as she's ready, we have staff who are just ready and willing to help with whatever it is the mom is ready to have help with.
And Katie, as we're talking about this, and we're talking about the resources you're providing to these expecting parents, when they're also ultimately, after they've had their child, after they've given birth, what sort of resources are provided then? Because they're still going to be, they're of course still parents. They're not pregnant parents any longer, but they're now parents to a living, breathing child, and are still homeless. So what sort of resources are provided after the birth?
Yeah, absolutely. So our hope is that a mom stays with us for a while after the birth, and we're going to help her find stable housing. But then beyond that, Mary's Mantle provides aftercare support. So even after a mom moves out of the residential program, we continue to walk with her in her journey. So we have another social worker that stays on to support women up until when the child turns 5, and honestly, really beyond that too. We have our oldest Mary's Mantle baby is now 11, and so that continuation of support really goes far beyond. We can help with school enrollment, getting services in place, things like early on, things like that for the mom who might still be struggling with, having a young toddler or even a school-age child. So we really want our moms to know we're here to walk with them the long haul.
You can get involved and you can find information on how you can also get help by visiting Mary's Mantle's website at marysmantle.net or go to sharedetroit.org and search for Mary's Mantle under their Find a Nonprofit section. You can also give them a call, 248-376-5338, 248-376-5338 for more information. Again, all of this is also cataloged on Share Detroit's website at sharedetroit.org. We're joined by Katie Montez, the Executive Director of Mary's Mantle, on today's edition of the Megacast. Katie, it can be tough for homeless individuals to get access to critical resources, whether it be, of course, shelter, but also work or food or other critical resources that they need day to day for themselves and for their families. And that can include getting in contact with organizations, finding a telephone to make a phone call, finding internet to research an organization or a shelter like yours that they could go to for some of these resources. So how typically are you getting in contact with these expecting parents?
Yeah, so a lot of times we get referrals from various hospitals. Social workers especially will reach out to us. They might see a young woman in the emergency room that is pregnant and needs support. A lot of the crisis pregnancy centers in the area, so women who are seeking help, who are newly pregnant and not sure what to do, they have our information. So it's really a word of mouth situation. We thankfully see a lot of sisters come through our program, or friends. So somebody has been through our program and they say, hey, this program really helped me a few years ago. You should consider it too. So it's really from all different avenues.
More information, again, can be found on marysmantle.net. That's marysmantle.net for more information, or you can call them 248-376-5338, 248-376-5338 for more information. And this also requires, like any nonprofit's work, a lot of support from the greater community and people that want to help these expecting parents and, of course, these children that are afflicted with homelessness. So how can people get involved to help your organization provide these resources and provide this comfort and stability to expecting parents?
Absolutely. So we are completely privately funded. Our annual budget's about $500,000 a year. And we do all that fundraising ourselves. So one great way to get involved is to support us financially or to attend one of our 3 fundraising events. And our first one is just 2 weeks away, which is at Top Golf in Auburn Hills. And so that is Sunday, March 18th. All the information is on our website. But it's just a great night out, a little bit of golf, some food and drinks and games. But it's a great way to not only support our ministry, but to learn about our ministry. So if somebody coming for the first time who might not know who we are or what we do, it's a great night to bring a friend and just really learn about the work that we do.
And to provide some perspective, what do you, and really even more importantly, what do these expecting parents, what do they wish that people knew more about being an expecting parent facing homelessness?
I think they just want to know that they're not alone. And so, our moms sometimes feel like, they're newly pregnant, maybe they're not even sure where to go. They might not have had the easiest childhood. And so they're scared. They want to know that there's support out there. And so that's the first thing we do. We let them know that they're not alone. And I think that goes a long way to kind of bridge that gap to help them down the road.
More information, again, can be found on marysmantle.net. marysmantle.net is the place to go for more information. And in terms of how much this has an impact on these expecting parents, certainly on the children, give us some details on that, because you mentioned that the oldest Mary's Mantle baby at this point is 11 years old. You've been running this organization. This organization's been running since 2010. So just how much of a significant impact can these services have on these expecting parents and then certainly on their kids?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of walking with moms far beyond the birth of their babies, that we get to see kids who go to kindergarten and go off to school and things like that. So, it's not so much what we do for the moms, but it's what they do for themselves. Once they have a safe place and once they kind of have some security in that, we just we're there to walk the journey with them, but they're the ones doing the work, which is just such such a blessing to be part of and to get to watch them really blossom and accomplish the goals that they want to.
Again, you can get in contact with Mary's Mantle and find more information on the organization, ways you can get involved, ways that you can help as well by visiting sharedetroit.org. You go there, find a nonprofit section, and you search for Mary's Mantle, and you'll find all the information you need. That's contact information, that's their website, volunteer opportunities, some items that they may need in order to help these expecting parents and to fulfill their mission. And of course, you can call them to get in contact and donate as well. Or you can go directly to their website, marysmantle.net. Marysmantle.net is their direct website, and call them 248-376-5338. 248-376-5338 for more information. We're joined by Katie Montez, who is the Executive Director of Mary's Mantle, on today's edition of the Megacast. Katie, and we mentioned some of the resources provided by Share Detroit, including lists of maybe items or other necessities for organizations that are supported on that platform. For your organization, for these expecting parents, for eventually these kids that are birthed from these expecting parents who are homeless, what are some of those critical resources that are needed that the community can support by donating to your organization, either those items proper or the funds that are needed to obtain them?
Yeah, absolutely. Funding is usually our biggest need. So just helping support our programs. Again, we're completely privately funded. We do have an Amazon wish list on Share Detroit's website that we love to get support through. So we provide everything that our moms need, from diapers to cleaning supplies, laundry detergent. All their basic necessities are provided by Mary's Mantle at no charge. And so, as you can imagine, we need a lot of things sometimes. So physically, there's lots of donations that we can accept through Amazon, or also there's a list found on our website as well of our current donation needs that we're accepting.
And just a little bit over a week away, you'll be having one of your fundraisers as well. A really fun way for people to get involved with your organization, have some fun out on the links, and support expecting parents in our local area. Tell us about your upcoming golf outing.
Yeah, so it's a great way to get out golfing before the official season starts for golfers. So Top Golf, in case people are not familiar, is an indoor facility in Auburn Hills. So no matter the weather, we can golf. We usually have just over 100 participants at the event. You don't have to be a golfer to come. I think it's actually more fun if you're not a golfer, but it's just a really great, fun way out to support the ministry, but also to just learn about what we do and just have fun.
marysmantle.net is the place to go to learn more information. You can also register on their website. And again, that event is at Top Golf at Great Lakes Crossing in Auburn Hills on Sunday, March 19th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, March 19th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And you can register online. Tickets for the meal only, $25 for an individual person for the meal, and the golfing is $75. A team of 6 for $450, and proceeds are going to support expecting parents here in our local area that are afflicted with homelessness through Mary's Mantle, who's doing great work right here in Oakland County for parents, not just in Oakland County, but across the local area as well. We're joined on the program by Katie Montez, the Executive Director of Mary's Mantle. And Katie, a couple more minutes with you before we'll need to wrap up for the day. Anything else that we haven't discussed that would be important for our audience to keep in consideration about the work that you're doing or about your organization?
Sure, absolutely. I just encourage people, sometimes when you're hearing about a new organization, you might think in the back of your head, hey, that sounds like a place I could donate some time or talent or financial support. And that's how I came to Mary's Mantle. I heard about the organization and I thought that really sounds like a place that I'd love to get involved in. And that was 8 years ago, and here I am. So I just encourage listeners and viewers if this is something that you feel like you might be able to help in some way, I encourage you to reach out. We are very responsive to emails and phone calls, and I'd be happy to talk with anybody more.
Over a decade of service to homeless expecting parents right here in our local area, and continuing to do great work as time goes on. Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, always glad to have organizations like Mary's Mantle on the program to talk about the great work they're doing for parts of our community that are often forgotten or marginalized, and doing an amazing job of helping them each and every day. Mary's Mantle doing great work, and we thank Katie for being on. Joining us now on the program is another nonprofit in our local area that's supporting a whole lot of people. One of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform is S.A.Y. Detroit, and joining us on today's program is their Executive Director, Richard Kelley. Richard, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Tyler. Great to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on. To start things off, tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization, the history of S.A.Y. Detroit.
Absolutely, I would love to. And thank you as well to our partners, Share Detroit, for thinking of us and including us as part of this today. But yeah, so I am a native Southeast Michigander, grew up in the area here, went to Michigan State University, spent a little time out west, but realized quickly that the Midwest was my home, and longingly looked forward to getting back to the Detroit area and working here and raising my family. And so I was happy to learn of this opportunity a few years ago with S.A.Y. Detroit, and about all the great work that they do in the community here. Sort of a best kept secret, I like to say, Tyler, but we're getting bigger and bigger, and more people are learning about us. But S.A.Y. Detroit was founded by author and philanthropist Mitch Albom, who's a Detroiter here, has lived here for many years. And we go back to when the Super Bowl was in Detroit. Mitch was very close with Dr. Chad Audi, who's the head of the Detroit Rescue Mission Ministries. And during the Super Bowl time, if you remember, the weather was really bad back in 2006. And the city of Detroit sort of rounded up all the homeless people and put them at one of Chad's shelters. And Mitch had learned about this and said, well, that's not right, in an effort, I guess, to make our city look better when we were going to have guests from out of town. And Mitch went down and spent a night at the homeless shelter, and he wanted to learn more about the people that were there and what was going on with their situation. And he tells a story of when he was checking into the homeless shelter, just like everybody else. One of the guys in line turned around and said, "Aren't you Mitch Albom?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "What happened to you?" And that really resonated with Mitch, that we're all just one bad incident away from being in a very different situation in our lives than we are in today. And that was really the birth of S.A.Y. Detroit. After that visit to the shelter, Mitch wrote a column that weekend that the Detroit had rounded up our homeless and put them at a shelter. And what happens when the Super Bowl goes away? We just send them back on the streets. And what is their care going to look like? And so they determined that it would cost around $60,000 or so to keep everybody in the shelter through at least the spring when things started to get warm again. And so his column actually raised over $350,000 to support the Detroit Rescue Mission Ministries. And really, that was the birth of S.A.Y. Detroit. And so a lot of people ask us, what does S.A.Y. stand for? What is S.A.Y. Detroit? S.A.Y. stands for Super All Year. So we're not just super one day a year or one weekend a year, but how do we keep that going all year long?
And you mentioned Mitch Albom finding the organization. He's also still heavily involved in all the work that you're doing with, say, Detroit in the Detroit area to support the community in a number of different ways. Just how connected is Mitch to this organization, even today, over a decade since it was founded?
Mitch is incredible. The amount of things he has going on in his life is really is something to see, and I've learned a lot from being with him. But he's involved in everything. He's involved in the day-to-day of our organization. He and I were just speaking yesterday about a few ideas. Mitch is someone. One thing I loved about coming to S.A.Y. Detroit is I often heard from funders or partners that the reason they support us and like what we do is we're an organization that gets things done. And that's where I think Mitch shines the brightest, is he has such a good pulse on the community and what's going on in the community. And we're a small enough and young enough organization that we have the ability to pivot and kind of deal with things that are real time happening today. Whether that be some social justice initiatives that we're involved in, after the George Floyd incident and murder a few summers ago and the unrest that caused. We were able to immediately pivot our charity a little bit and do some things to have an impact in that area as well. So Mitch is very involved. In addition to S.A.Y. Detroit, he has an orphanage in Haiti that he goes to every single month, has not missed 1 month through COVID or anything. And so we just try to keep up with Mitch because he is an amazing ambassador for our community, and he really is the driving force behind what we do here.
At 2 places you can find more information on S.A.Y. Detroit. You can go to Share Detroit's website on sharedetroit.org and search S.A.Y. Detroit under their Find a Nonprofit section, or go straight to the S.A.Y. Detroit website at S-A-Y Detroit, saydetroit.org for more information. Joining us on the program today is their Executive Director, Richard Kelley. And Richard, looking at your website and all the things that S.A.Y. Detroit does, and really figuring out a way to keep Detroit super all year, as your organization is named. It's about working with people in all different facets in the Detroit area, whether it's children, whether it's adults, veterans, seniors, and so on. There's so many different pathways to success that are inspired by, S.A.Y. Detroit. What is a pathway to success? What does that look like?
Well, I'm so glad you asked me. We recently went through some strategic planning, Tyler, at our organization because we were doing a lot, and we needed a good way. As I mentioned before, S.A.Y. Detroit was kind of a best kept secret in our community, and when people would ask us, "What do you do?" we would start to tell the story, but the story was a long story. So we said, "How can we make that a little bit shorter?" But so we really worked hard with our board to come up with kind of a new mission statement for ourselves. And that's where this Pathways comes from. And, when you look around and, where I grew up in Southeast Michigan, is I had a lot of opportunities presented to me to help, whether it was navigate my way into college or into the working world, or to volunteer or give back to the community. And we realized that a lot of the communities that we serve did not offer these pathways or make them as easy to find for a lot of our constituents. And so we realized that a lot of what we did, our physical entities, whether it's an after-school program or a free health clinic, were really providing these pathways to the citizens who needed them most. And so, pathways can look very different for a lot of people, but for us, it's, for the kids we serve at our S.A.Y. Play Center, it's a pathway to a successful life, to happiness. If college is in their dreams, how can we help them, find that path? If they want to get to work right away and support their family, and, how can we help them find that path right away? If it's healthcare we're talking about, and, living a more healthy lifestyle, or, helping new moms with newborns and providing resources for that, providing, like I said, those pathways to success. So.
And Richard, there's so many different resources that do go into providing those pathways to success to individuals, certainly to families as well. Elaborate for us on some of those resources that S.A.Y. Detroit does provide to these families in the Detroit area, and how they get access to these resources.
Absolutely. Well, I think I'd start with our kind of 2 biggest physical entities that we have. And one of those is the S.A.Y. Detroit Play Center in Detroit, which is an after-school program for kids in really the Metro Detroit area, but really all over Detroit. We're very blessed that we have a fleet of buses. And to keep it real simple, we pick kids up from school, we bring them to the center, we provide a warm meal to kids, many of whom are facing food insecurity issues. We then provide a safe environment for learning. And whether that's homework help, or tutoring, or just general educational assistance, they get that help at our center. And when they're done with that, and they're doing a good job in their schoolwork, they then have their use of our facility. And our facility has wonderful sporting venues, a beautiful football field, a basketball court, but we also have a lot in the arts, so a recording studio, a music studio, a dance studio. And so exposing all of these kids to different things that they maybe wouldn't have gotten a chance to do before is a lot of what we do at our center. And I like to add that we then drive the kids home at night and drop them off at their homes so that the parents can feel safe that their kids were in a safe environment and were returned home safely with a full belly, with their homework done, and with success. And I would also just touch on our health clinic as well. Our health clinic is a free health clinic in Highland Park, Michigan. that we do accept insurance there now. We just started accepting insurance, but we also have all sorts of free services there. We've started new programs there in the last year. We started a program called the First Week program, where we work with expectant mothers and mothers of newborns to provide resources and help with things that maybe they did not have or had not learned before. We have an event once a month called Wellness Wednesdays, which is focused on the women in our community and providing resources that are exclusively targeted to them and their needs. And so we actually just threw our first ever baby shower on Sunday we had 32 expectant mothers in, and we had a wonderful baby shower to provide them a lot of the resources that they will need as they move forward in their life. And so those are a few examples of resources that are available, and all of it is free of charge. Our after-school programs, our health clinics, our other programs that we run. We have a program where we give away bicycles to those in need in our community. We realize that the homeless community uses bikes to get around and a lot of transportation, and so we said, well, let's try to help provide more bicycles to those in need. So we have a lot of different ways that we can impact people throughout Metro Detroit.
Nearly 17 years, actually over 17 years at this point now, with this, with it being founded around the time of the Super Bowl, that S.A.Y. Detroit has been doing this amazing work in the Detroit area. And Richard, and I know you're relatively new to the organization, but just what sort of an impact has S.A.Y. Detroit had in Detroit in these 17 years plus?
Well, I like to think that we've had quite an impact so far, and we have a long way to go. One thing we heard recently about our S.A.Y. Detroit Play Center in Detroit is the values of the homes in the neighborhood that we're in have started to go up a bit. And we like to think that having our play center in the middle of a neighborhood at 7 Mile and Van Dyke is really an anchor for that community there. The Osborne neighborhoods, Osborne High School is nearby, and that we've provided an anchor for a lot of the families that live in that area. But, you know, I was just doing some quick math, Tyler, before we jumped on this call, and we have over 100 kids a day come through our center every day. And, you know, for both the school year, and then we do a 6-week summer camp as well. And just doing some quick math, that's over 20,000 young people that come through our center on an annual basis. I just received some reports from our health clinic, and we had over 3,500 patient visits last year at our health clinic. I didn't mention before, but our clinic also has a pharmacy where everything is free at the pharmacy. And we did well over $100,000 in prescriptions last year at our health clinic as well. So, you know, we are just starting to really figure out how to measure our impact in a better way. But one of our programs I didn't touch on before is called Working Homes, Working Families, where, you know, again, Mitch heard a lot about the blight in Detroit and all of these abandoned homes. And he thought, well, wait a minute, we also have a homeless problem and we have all these abandoned homes. Is there not something we can do with this? And so we started a program called Working Homes, Working Families, where we renovate formerly empty homes, and we provide them to a family in need that fell on hard times for whatever reason. Again, we all can't control the things that happen to us. And I like to say we've given away over 50 homes through that Working Homes, Working Families program over the last 10 years. So I know we've had a great impact so far, and I like to think that it's just going to continue to grow exponentially.
More information can be found on saydetroit.org, or go to sharedetroit.org to find more information on S.A.Y. Detroit and over 300 other charities and nonprofits. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to our partner, Share Detroit. They're a wonderful source of information for volunteers, which we need a ton of. And feel free to visit us as well, as Tyler mentioned, saydetroit.org. And we're always looking for helpers and volunteers. So
volunteers, donations, and other ways that you can help, saydetroit.org, just as Richard said. And for reference, the company that I work for, that our team here at Civic Center TV works for, that is contracted in for production services, is Michigan Digital, and they do provide production services for Mitch Album and S.A.Y. Detroit's annual S.A.Y. Detroit Radiothon, just for disclosure there. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. You can always join us online on demand on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. And big thank you to each one of our guests and our dedicated crew for today's edition of the show. Until next time, take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.